Evening, members, and apologies for my lateness this evening. One of those days, I'm afraid. If I start with item 1, which is the webcasting introduction, I'd like to remind everyone present that this hybrid meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or other such use by third parties. Therefore, by participating in this meeting, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings for webcasting and/or training purposes. If any speakers on MS Teams do not want their images to be captured, they should ensure that their video settings throughout this meeting are turned off and set to audio only. Please may I remind members that if we are overcome by technical difficulties that interrupt the meeting that cannot be overcome, I may need to adjourn this meeting. Members, for the last time this evening, I don't have to tell you that when you're speaking, turn your microphones on, and when you're finished, turn your microphones off. Item 2, apologies for absence.
No apologies, Leader.
Thank you very much. Declarations of interest, if there are any. No? Okay. Minutes of the last meeting, can I take them as being true and correct? Great. Thank you. Reports of portfolio holders, if anything additional to add. Councillor Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to update members on the opening or the groundbreaking of 2 of our new council properties in Waltham Abbey and in Buckhurst Hill 2 weeks ago now. It was a really great opportunity to look at some of the properties that we're building as part of the Council House building programme in Waltham Abbey, named after Mick Finch, who was the previous mayor of Waltham Abbey, as well as doing many things in the local community. There were 8 new flats, including a very impressive 2-bedroom penthouse, which we were all very jealous of, which was fantastic. But they're really high quality, well built, environmentally friendly council homes. And in Buckhurst Hill, 7 new council flats as well. And we had Kathy Brokenshire, the wife of James Brokenshire, who the flats were named after, and many will know that James was from Epping Forest originally, a government minister, but his father was also the first chief executive of this council, and Buckhurst Hill was where he's from, so a very nice touch. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any other members? Councillor Phillip.
Chairman, just wanted to tell councillors about the very successful Meet the Construction Buyer event that we had in our own conference centre last week. Very well attended, lots of firms from the area, representatives of organisations that can deliver significant support to small businesses, including the Federation of Small Business, who we share some of our Shared Prosperity Fund with, to actually make it possible for businesses to join that at a reduced rate for 2 years. We also had representatives from the 3 further education colleges around here, with New City College, Harlow College and Hertfordshire College. Very well attended. People kept coming all the way through from the start, 4 o'clock, all the way through to, it began to tail off around 7:30, but I think that's a very successful thing. All the feedback I've had is very, very positive. They all made good connections. There's always significant stuff in there, and there are people we identified there who are going to give us some input to go into our monthly business bulletin that we send out to all businesses in the district. Again, strengthening those connections and doing some of the stuff that we've been able to do here is really positive for us as an economic development organisation.
That's good news. Thank you very much. Members, Councillor Patel, did you have an additional report?
Just to add that we've had the Stay Safe and Well event in Ongar recently, and despite of weather, it's gone really well. We had 70 members attending, of residents attending, and it went really well. Yeah, just
good. That's brilliant. And of course, we've also, as members, been doing our visits with grounds maintenance teams around the estates, so that's been very useful as well. If we move forward, any public questions or requests to address the Cabinet?
None, Leader.
Thank you. Then we move on to item 7, which is the report of overview and scrutiny. Councillor Wixley joining us online this evening. You're muted, Councillor Wixley.
Yeah, I've just unmuted. Thank you, Chairman. There isn't really much I can add because we haven't had an Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting for some time. So there's not really anything I can add to previous reports other than saying that our next meeting will be on the 23rd of April. And I believe that the newly elected Youth Council will be given their annual presentation at that meeting. So there's not much else I can say.
Thank you. A good announcement to make, Councillor Wixley, the Youth Council's meeting, because everyone always enjoys that, and they always do such good presentations to us at the Overview and Scrutiny meeting. So I'm sure that will be a highlight of the year. Councillor Wixley.
Thank you.
Okay, moving onwards then, item 8, which is the pay policy statement, which is myself to give that particular one, and it is a very standard statement that we do each year. Members, there's nothing to add to the report. I take it everyone's read the report. Is everyone happy to agree that? Thank you.
Jim, I think we recommend it to council.
Sorry?
I think we recommend it to council rather than actually
Yes,
approving it
absolutely.
ourselves.
Yeah. Okay, and then we move on to item 9, condensation, damp and mould policy. Councillor Holly Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman, and I hope members have had an opportunity to read through this report. It's a very important report, and it has had a significant amount of scrutiny going through the Communities Select Committee. Obviously, it goes without saying, as a landlord, we have a duty to reduce and get rid of damp and mould and condensation across our council stock. With the new social regulations from the government, social housing regulations from the government, there's been a new particular focus around this, and this strategy puts in place what we'll do to ensure that we do all within our power to help this and to tackle this. I'm happy to take any questions and also have Sergio here for support today. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, Councillor Phillip.
Chairman, I was very happy to actually be at the scrutiny committee when this was considered. I thought the scrutiny given to it was very significant and very positive. Very pleased to see that in this report there's the responses to the issues that were raised at scrutiny, and being the finance portfolio holder, you would expect me to say this. I'm very glad to see that it's going to be contained within existing resources and budget.
Thank you. Councillor Allgood.
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's just a bit of, well, not necessarily advice, but I've got a private leaseholder in council property would like to buy new double glazing, but policy is they can't buy it until it becomes part of the programme of repairs. Other districts allow residents to actually buy them as long as it's in agreement with the council and stuff like that. So with something like this, I believe it's probably better if we actually agree with that sort of policy and actually start encouraging, if they want to buy new windows, we don't say, no, don't, you have to wait till we're replacing them, and then go to them and allow them to actually buy their own properties, or buy their own windows, or equivalent.
Thank you, Chairman. It's a very, very good point, actually, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to refer to Sergio to provide some advice on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, again, a good question. I think what I can certainly do is look at that on a case-by-case basis. I think what would be helpful is if we share what our planned programme is, so therefore that gives that private leaseholder an understanding of when windows are likely to be replaced. But it certainly is something that we can consider as part of a review of the policy once we work through the detail of that. Thank you.
Councillor Bedford.
Thank you. I think we have to be careful as well because of the new fire safety bill, and if we're purchasing new windows, ideally need to go past our housing department to make sure they're fire retardant. It becomes even more important when a leaseholder wants to change their flat front door. If that flat front door is used in common with the other flats on that corridor, then that forms part of the escape route. Therefore, there are minimum standards that are going to be required for that door. So we have to be very careful what we allow tenants to do outside of the governance of the council.
Thank you. Councillor Allgood.
Just to come back, the client I've got is quite happy to go with the council, whatever they're doing, you know, so they want to, but there is a programme and it's sometime in the future, sort of like it's not exact, so they want to buy them now. I mean, the winter period's gone, so we've missed this opportunity where they will quite happily buy under our recommendation. So that's what I think is missed opportunity.
Again, so what I can certainly do is have a look at what the specific detail is within the policy itself, and if I just pick that up as a separate case with you afterwards, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Williamson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. In other authorities, they do have a list of suppliers that you have to go to. So that makes sure that it fits the design of that block, it fits our criteria, and there will be 2 or 3 suppliers, and you have to go to them. So that may be a way forward.
Yeah, they're all very helpful comments, aren't they? Sergeant, did you want to come back again?
Yeah, I mean, certainly what we can do is undertake to do a piece of work to see what other local authorities are doing within the districts as well, within the local sort of Essex area, and then we can take that and look at that as part of the review for next year. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wixley.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I think Councillor Williamson has perhaps touched on what I'm about to say, but I think there's a need that whatever windows are chosen by a leaseholder, they need to match in with whatever the council has done or is going to do. So we get some sort of uniformity. It could possibly look a bit odd if somebody chose to have completely different windows to the rest of a block, for instance.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wixley, and I'm sure that will be taken into account. I think this is just a change in policy and a change in direction that we need to make sure we get right, because the last thing we want is anyone to be purchasing improvements to their home only to have to do it again. Councillor Heap. Obviously, there's a blackout in Bucker still. Councillor Heap.
Yeah, sorry. I'm in Germany, actually. It was about the window replacement, because when it was done in Sycamore House, the condition of the building or the actual manufacture of the building wasn't considered. So I think the windows that have been replaced have been too good for what's there. And there are cold bridges all over the place because the concrete slabs make up floors go to the outside of the building, and that transmits cold through to the inside. And the first thing that happened was the residents were blamed for their lifestyle choices of having tumble dryers in their houses. So I don't, it reads great, but it's not actually carried forward in a very good manner.
Councillor Heap, it was a really bad quality line then. I'm not sure if anyone actually picked it up. Councillor Holly Whitbread, do you want to make a comment if you heard anything?
I struggled to hear that, I'm afraid. I think that Councillor Heap highlighted that sometimes it's lifestyle that exacerbates issues with mould and damp, which is certainly true and identified within this report. He made another comment in relation to concrete, but I didn't quite understand, unfortunately.
Councillor Heap, if you wish to...
May I try again?
Yeah, try again.
So the problem is, with mould and damp, we have several issues in Buckstill. In Sycamore House, there was a misunderstanding. Well, the windows that were replaced, the windows, were too good for the building. And the first thing that happened was that the residents were blamed for the lifestyle choices, but that wasn't necessarily their fault, because the concrete slabs that make up the floor of the building transmit to the outside, and that transmits cold to the inside, which increases condensation when you improve the quality of the windows. And also at Hornbeam House, we have a resident who has incredible damp in her flat. The floors above her emptied into her shower tray, into her room, into the entire flat. And several people have gone there from Quality who said that the problem is too big for them. So policy is fantastic as you read it, but the practice and the delivery of it is woeful.
Yeah.
And that's what needs to be improved.
What I would say this evening, Councillor Heap, is I'm sure if you have individual cases, they can be dealt with individually. This is about the broader policy and the need to actually put this in place, which we've gone through all this before on numerous occasions with different issues around housing. But this is the policy that we need to put in place and has been very clearly set out and gone through the scrutiny process as well. So members, you've got the recommendations here. I'm sure Councillor Heap will take the other pieces up with Sergeant directly on the individual blocks of flats, because every block of flat is different. There's horses for courses on every style and type of build. Members, we've got the recommendations before us. Can we agree those
Sorry,
recommendations?
Chairman, could I just ask you
No,
briefly?
no, Councillor Heap, I've listened. We're going to come back to you individually on those blocks, but we're agreeing this policy. Can I agree this policy? Agree. Thank you. Okay, we're now moving on to item 10, Housing Asset Management Strategy, pages 44 to 61. Councillor Whitbread.
Thank you, Chairman. And again, this went through the last Community Select Committee. And I hope members will agree this is a really good comprehensive strategy, and actually the first time we've put together such a strategy to look at our council house or HRA assets. It's a really good piece of work, partly off the back of the housing stock review which we had completed by our consultant ARC, which essentially looked at all of our housing stock and almost rated it in terms of its quality and broken your sign, Councillor Bedford, rated it in terms of its quality, and actually it's very overarching in terms of the whole council stock. It does highlight on that new home delivery, which remains important to us as a local authority delivering new council homes for local people. Have to have lived in the area for at least 7 years to be eligible for one of those homes, and we've seen successes, as I highlighted earlier in this meeting, delivering examples of these new homes. Also at the heart of this strategy is listening to customer experience, what our tenants think, and listening to them alongside our officers who take in that feedback on a daily basis. It also looks at the condition and desirability of stock, as well as considering the use and performance of stock in the future and how we might wish to change it to better meet the need of local people. But as I say, it's a very comprehensive report, some of it more detailed, going through the nature of our stock, but also keeping them aspirations to have high quality housing estates across the district and provide the housing that local people require. Thank you, Chairman. And Sergeant's here, he might want to add a little bit more detail. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I think the important piece really is going to be the delivery. So we'll be looking at annual delivery plans as part of the actual asset management strategy, and they'll be worked out each year. And then we will look at actually having a review of those delivery plans in line with the strategy. So there'll be an annual review of the strategy as well. So we've got the initial start around the strategy document, but as Councillor has just said, this really is about being data-driven and performance-driven, so that we've got real good, tangible data about our stock, as well as the actual softer sort of details from our customers as well. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. And yes, I think this is a very good piece of work, and it's something that we definitely have needed for a while. There are obviously some possible synergies that we can exploit between this housing asset strategy and what Collis as our asset management for our commercial properties do. It's not really explored in this policy, particularly when you look at page 16, the stronger teams and partnerships, when you're looking to shape the internal team, I would like you to look to see whether something that we can do to improve both the Collis side of things with our commercial asset team and your housing asset management team, see what we can actually do synergistically. When we're looking at partnership working, it doesn't necessarily have to be between different councils. We can look to our own council company there. And just want to flag up that on page 59, when we're talking about better value for money, we do need to recognise that if we do go for top quartile performance, we need to expect to pay top quartile prices, and sometimes top quartile is not where we need to be. So it's just one of those ones that we need to watch as we implement the strategy. But I think the strategy itself is really good.
Good. Councillor Holly Whitbread, do you want to come back?
Yeah, thank you, and noted on that last point, Councillor Phillip. And I think the one of partnership is important. The report and the mentions briefly the relationship between Qualis and EFDC. Actually, there's probably greater ways that we can enhance relationship, particularly looking at our assets across the spectrum. And actually, ultimately, as a local authority, it's always been our ambition to provide as much council housing as possible. So working with Qualis, we can find new ways of delivering those opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members? No? Okay. You've got the recommendations before you. They've gone through overview and scrutiny as well. I think it's important to draw that out. Are we happy to agree?
Agree.
Thank you very much. We then move on to item 11, tree policy updates. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Chair. This is before us because it was last reviewed in 2008, which seems a lifetime ago. It's been through scrutiny. The comments that were raised have been incorporated where they could be. And I think it's a really good piece of work that will put us in good stead for the next 5 years.
Good. Thank you. That's positive. Any questions on trees? No? Oh, Councillor Phillip.
Yeah, I just don't like to see a tree policy go through without people commenting on it. It's something that's really important. I mean, driving around the district recently, we can see that there are a significant number of new trees planted on public land, which has to be good for the district. It's good for our environment. It's something that we as a group are really keen on making sure that we support the green areas, that we don't build on green belt, that we keep things going in the right direction. So this is really good. And I would just like to say that I've interacted with some of our tree workers through the management chain and been very impressed by how quickly they responded when I drove down a road and found that there was a street tree that had lost a branch in the winds lying, actually blocking the pavement. It was cleared the same day. And that's the sort of stuff that we can do, and because we have control of things locally. And if it wasn't done with that, it could be done through our highway rangers. Again, something that we have preserved.
Good points, Councillor Phillip. Councillor Wixley.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's just on page 70. I'm just looking at, it says EFDC will not undertake works on trees for the following. Two things that stood out to me there was that one was in the event of television or satellite reception interference and interference with telephone lines. I just wondered if that happens, then what recourse the people who are affected by those issues have if the council is not going to undertake work on trees to remedy those situations.
Councillor Williamson.
I think it obviously individually assessed on the merits of each case, but what I will do is take that back to the team and I'll respond to you outside of this because I don't want to give advice if I'm not fully updated on it, if that's okay, Councillor Wixley.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, some years ago I did actually have a case where somebody a tree was growing into the telephone lines. I think telephone lines are going to become out of date shortly, aren't they? But nevertheless, they could still cause a problem. And that particular tree was an EFDC owned tree, which I think it's got a TPI. So it is an issue which I'm concerned about, and I've had complaints about television interference. I never know whether they're justified or not, but nevertheless I've received complaints about it. So I'd be grateful if I could get an answer to those two questions. Yeah,
of course. Obviously everything's assessed on an individual basis, but I'll certainly make sure that the team come back to you on that one.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mandy. Okay, members, you've got the policy before. You've had an opportunity to read it. You can see the recommendations. It's very clear. It's something that we really do need to do, and we need to have it in place. And are you happy to agree the recommendations? Great. Thank you very much. Then we move on to item 12, which is the endorsement of the Latin Priory Strategic Design Code. Councillor Bedford.
Thank you. This report is to note the consultation that has been undertaken, noted at the first recommendation, and to bring Latin Priory Strategic Design Code to Cabinet for endorsement, which is noted in the second recommendation. The development of Latin Priory Strategic Design Code responds to its allocation in SP 4.1 in EFDC's adopted local plan and follows the endorsement of the site promoter's strategic master plan framework for the site in July 2023. The Latin Priory site is one of 7 strategic master plan areas in the district and one of the 3 new Harlow and Gilston town communities within or partially within the district. The Latin Priory master plan is allocated for a minimum of 1,050 homes, primary and secondary schools, employment land, 5 traveller pitches, local centre community facilities and a significant green space, which is including a SANG, which is a special area of natural green space. The Strategic Design Code has been produced by the EFDC Planning Implementation Team with funding from DELA through the National Pathfinders Design Code Pilot Scheme. The adopted local plan requires that the design codes as part of the master planning process and all strategic master plan sites. The design code builds on the mandatory spatial fixes within the strategic master plan framework to set out site-wide strategies and key design requirements with the aim of securing high quality, healthy and vibrant public realm. The design code has been developed in collaboration with key HGGT partners, including Harlow and Essex Highways. It has also been reviewed by the Quality Review Panel twice, with the notes from the second review panel which are appended as Appendix F. A formal public and stakeholder consultation was undertaken between October and December 2023. This included an online survey and engagement in person, workshops, exhibitions and drop-in sessions in both Epping and Harlow, and engagement with developers. HGTT members and stakeholders' feedback from the consultation and resulting amendments are contained with the appendices B and C. Any minor amendments, including minor changes to images, accessibility and legibility, are requested to be able to be authorised by the Planning Services Director in conjunction with myself as portfolio holder. This is noted in the third recommendation, and that is the report. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Members, a great deal of work going into the Lack and Priory project at the present time, and of course the whole of the Harlow Garden Town project. Any questions? Councillor Phillip.
I'm sure Councillor Bedford will appreciate this comment because he and I served on the Garden Town board for quite a while. I didn't see any mention of brass screws in this document.
Councillor Bedford and brass screws.
I have no idea what you're trying to get to there.
Nor did they.
You mean thumb screws?
No, we had a councillor from one of the other authorities who,
yes,
every time that a design thing came up, mentioned use of brass screws.
I now remember that specific person. Unfortunately, he passed away.
It was very painful. This has gone through a great deal of consultation, as Councillor Bedford said, which I think is the key to all the work that we're doing around the Harlow Garden Town piece, and of course the Northfield Master Plan that comes up shortly. And consultation is the key to all these projects. Members, I know you've taken time to read the reports, and others of us have been to numerous committee meetings where they've been discussed. Can we take those as being agreed?
Agreed.
Okay. Then we move on to item 13, the endorsement of East of Harlow Master Planning Guidance. Now, this particular item is being deferred.
Yes.
It will come to Cabinet on May the 28th, the next Cabinet meeting, but it is deferred for the moment for just some additional works to be done to it. Then we move on to item 14, Northfield Bassett Strategic Master Plan Framework. Councillor Bedford.
Thank you, Leader. This report is to bring the final Northfield Bassett Strategic Master Plan Framework to Cabinet for endorsement. The development of Northfield Bassett Strategic Master Plan Framework responds to the adopted Epping Forest District Local Plan 2011 to 2033, the Allocation Policy P6, Northfield Bassett Master Plan area forms one of the allocated strategic master plan sites where the need for a strategic master plan framework is identified. Following the requirements in Policy SP2 Placemaking and P6 Northfield Bassett, a strategic master plan has been developed for the allocated strategic area. The Northfield Bassett Master Plan is allocated for a minimum, again, of 1,050 homes, a local centre including retail, community and sporting facilities, and appropriate provision of health facilities. The site is also allocated for the provision of education provision, including early years and primary school places. Above requirement levels of public open space to be provided on the site, including a suitable alternative natural green space, or another, as we call it, a SANG. Northfield Bassett Strategic Master Plan Framework has been subject to extensive informal public consultation spanning between 2018 to the summer of 2023, where local community groups such as the Northfield Neighbourhood Plan Steering Group, the Queen Memorial Fields Trust, the Northfield Parish Council, St Andrew's School and the general public were consulted. The SMF has been developed collaboratively and has been reviewed by the local planning authority, the Essex officers as part of the planning performance agreement process. The master plan has also been reviewed by the Council's Quality Review Panel 3 times. Formal consultation took place between November 2023 and January 2024 to provide the public, statutory consultees and the general public with the ample time to review and comment on the SMF. Following this consultation, the SMF has been updated to reflect the comments as are appropriate. Therefore, I recommend that the Northfield Bassett Strategic Master Plan Framework be formally endorsed in order for it to be taken into account as an important material consideration in the determination of future planning applications and to perform pre-application advice, assessing planning and any other development, management and implementation related purposes relating to the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bedford. I know that Councillor Phillip is itching to come forward, but I just want to make a couple of points to start with because obviously we have been very open with the consultation process and it's gone on over a number of years to try and find a future for Northfield. In fact, it was myself in one of my early cabinet meetings as leader that agreed that flying would continue at the airfield, and that's very important to us and was something that we had to get a middle way on. I was going to say a third way, but someone else said that once. We had to find a middle way on, which included more commercial on the airfield, but keeping flying, and that's always been important to us. And this master plan document now enshrines that very much into the planning for the future of the airfield. And of course, just after Christmas, we did do a transaction on the airfield, but I think people need to be aware that's a very small part of the master planning site and a very small part of a 400-acre airfield. And it's really important that that comes across because some people do like to try and mislead people in that to say that aviation is under threat. Aviation is not under threat. That's just playing games and actually undermining the future of the airfield. So those people should be ashamed of themselves. We are working very hard to make sure the airfield is fit for the future, to coin a phrase from another item this evening, and we will continue to do so. Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. I wasn't going to be mentioning this, but just following on from what you said, in the airfield and the development that we have as part of that master plan clearly is designed to make sure that the airfield can continue. And speaking as somebody who has it as part of their portfolio, the flying and the current tenants of the airfield are critical to what we're doing. We want to make sure that we work with them to make sure what we end up with is the best for everybody, for the whole district and also for North Weald. But what I was going to comment on this one is I'm really impressed with the amount of work that's been done with the local people in North Weald to make sure that they have had more than an adequate opportunity to influence the way that this is going. And just on page 224, I'm really pleased to see the significant list of real benefits that are coming as part of this master plan. Not simply a new centre with a community centre that has healthcare provision, but library facilities, cafe, playing field provision, a retail area. When we look through the specific site requirements, we're also looking at things like as was mentioned, the SANG, but also the importance of protecting the listed assets that are around there to make sure that they're properly protected. Also improving public rights of way. I mean, that's a really important thing. This is not a case of us having land in the local plan and making it less accessible to members of the public. It actually makes it more accessible and more usable. And one of the things I know, because it's one of the lanes that one does drive along occasionally, is the Vicarage Lane West being upgraded as part of this. I think it's looking at this in terms of what we've got in the strategic master plan, it should put to bed once and for all the suggestion that the local plan is simply about development and not about improving facilities and the place that people live. This is a clear example of how, when it's done properly, it really improves things for everybody who are in the district now and who will move to the district in the future.
Thank you. Councillor Bedford.
Thank you for that, Councillor Phillip. And I went through some of the documentation there this afternoon. I was looking at some of the plans. It's even gone into detail about how they've designed the circular routes for future bus routes going through, picking up from key areas. And I think that this is the benefit that we've had in having this master plan for North Weald running alongside the master plan for the airfield. So the two are actually joined together. So one is the employment and the housing side, and then the other is the airfield, specifically with the employment side. And I think we're actually getting somewhere with this now, and hopefully there'll always be people, oh, it's not in my back garden, I don't want this. However, we are at the point where the local plan has been adopted. We have to develop and bring forward the sites in the local plan, and the developers have been working meticulously with our officers in bringing this forward. And it's a credit to the officers who have actually put the amount of work and effort in to producing the documents we have here this evening. Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much. Members, you've got the recommendations before you. Can we agree those?
Agreed.
Thank you. We then move on to item 15, Fit for the Future, which is the start of a process. Oh, sorry, Councillor Brooks.
Thank you. Is it possible just to ask a question? When I read this report, one of the things that concerned me, many years ago, when I first moved to the area, I taught for 3 years at the village school in St Andrews. And I noticed that they were very opposed to the idea of another primary school in the village. And I wondered if, as a resident of North Weald and very much in touch, even that you could say a bit more about why you think they were so strongly opposed to the idea, because their numbers have varied a lot in the last few years.
I think some of the problems has been around there at the end of like School Green Lane, where it's quite isolated, and they felt that they were going to be isolated. But within the master plan framework document, there is a specific section that deals with the school and how they're going to encourage the school to develop further. There is land available there as well, but obviously at the moment they're at the master planning stage, not the final detail stage. The detail will come, or as they say, the devil's in the detail when we finally get it. But it's making sure, when you read the document, the key words are must and should. So must have, we must have that additional facility of educational needs. So that's covered within the document in the finer detail.
Okay, thank you. So we've agreed those recommendations. If we can then move on to item 15, which is Fit for the Future. Members will have remembered when we got to the budget this year, the challenges that we faced that we were fortunate enough to overcome at the last minute through the fortune of disposal of a piece of land on North Weald. And hard work, lots of hard work. But the problems haven't gone away because there's obviously still a structural deficit within the budget. We've just found a way around it this year. So at that time, we agreed that we would undertake a transformation process. I don't think any of us in here would pretend for 1 minute the world hasn't changed since the pandemic, with changes in the styles that we work and some of the technology that's come through that we make good use of, but there's more technology on its way. We know that we need to find substantial savings in the future, and transformation is a method by which we can achieve some of those savings, not all of them, but also in delivering better frontline services for our residents. And I know my colleagues Shruti Patel and Ray Balcom have been looking in particular at the moment at the customer services elements that need to be improved. We are fortunate that we are deeply embedded in the North Essex Council's committee, and we are working closely with a number of councils on some shared projects which are part of the transformation process, and they are going well. Some of our officers may feel the pressure of doing those shared services, but they are going well, and we are making good progress, principally with our partners in Colchester and Braintree at this stage. But of course, it's a coalition of the willing on some of those shared services, and we hope others become more and more involved. We are also fortunate to work with colleagues from Essex as well on a range of items, and obviously some of that's including the procurement collaborative, which we are and have been for a number of years heavily engaged in. But there is more to do, and there are more opportunities out there. But to start with, we need to put in place a governance structure for that, and this is what this paper is explaining this evening. It's about the governance structure which will enable us to move forward with transformation. Now, some of it will be done with partners and some of it will be done by ourselves. And I recently chaired a conference on AI for the Essex County Council, and you realise when you start to look at some of the new technologies coming forward, they are absolutely brilliant and they will help us a great deal, particularly with some of the bureaucratic side of what we do. However, they are expensive, and we will have to work in partnership to deliver some of them. We also know that's true of most of tech, and becoming a better digital council will rely upon us doing that. There is a lot to be done. The governance process is the first step in the right direction, and we look forward to bringing forward more reports to you in the near future. I'd imagine there'll be a further report when we get to Council or to Cabinet on May the 28th, and I'm sure that will be taken forward by the then Cabinet as we progress. But members, you've got the recommendations before you this evening. I'm happy to take any questions and move forward from there. Councillor Phillip.
Thank you, Chairman. Just not so much questions. I think it's definitely the right direction that we're going in, because we do need to make sure that we don't have the same challenges that we had this year in terms of our budget going forward, and working collaboratively is clearly part of that. It's worth noting a couple of things, particularly in section 3.3, Leader. It was actually the Council on the 20th of February that approved the budget, not on the 5th of February. And we didn't put the full 3 million in for this year, but we have a strategy that allows us to get to that level to facilitate this. And as I said when I was presenting the budget, it's very clear that investing this amount of money in doing something like this, we expect to return significantly above that, which will help us to make a balanced budget. And I also noticed that in one of the documents, in terms of your memorandum of understanding, there's a parallel in size drawn between ourselves and Birmingham, and I just want to make it very clear again that there is no danger of us heading towards a Section 114 situation, because we actually manage our finances properly and only spend what we can afford to spend.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Phillip, and I know under your stewardship of the finances, and of course Mr Small and Mr Hargrove, we are very, very sound and very carefully. We would make the tough decisions if we have to. We're hoping that transformation will be part of a process that helps us to build for the future. We've got big plans for the district, and you've heard some of those recently, whether it be what we're planning to do on Northwood Airfield, what we're planning to do across the district to drive our revenue streams forward, because that's how we can make things better, and how we're going to modernise the council as well to drive savings and efficiencies. But obviously, first and foremost, we want to make sure that we're a council that delivers for our residents and businesses across the districts. And you're quite right, Councillor Phillip, we would never put this council in a position of financial harm. And it's good to notice that it's normally Conservative councils that deliver sound finance across the country. Members, you've got the recommendations before you. Can we agree those recommendations? Agree. We then need to move into private session for one item. So I need to ask members to consider whether under section 100 in brackets A in brackets 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and press should be excluded from the meeting for the terms of business set out below on grounds that they will involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in the following paragraphs of Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Act as amended, or are confidential under sections 100 in bracket A, in brackets 2. This is the subject of the Epping Forest Operations Hub. Can I ask for members to agree that? Agree. Thank you. And if we could close down the webcast now and make sure there is no public and press or